Andrea,
Hi.
welcome to Q.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So you put out your first record in 2013.
Yes.
A lot of buzz. 4 years since then, if my math is correct. So why the wait?
Well, when we first completed Ritual Tradition Habit and we released it, our intention was to write and record and release as quickly as possible.
Right.
We just found it wasn't a intentioned break. It was just a matter of the dates kept getting pushed back, and our producers were living out in Eastern Canada, Montreal, Toronto to be specific, and it was just hard to get everyone's schedules together. Either that or just songs weren't sitting quite right. Like the first batch of songs that we wrote, it was basically like a nesting period until we got the green light from our producers and from our managers thinking that maybe it's okay to release out into the world.
Right.
But I think ultimately when I look at it, it kind of resonates on a much deeper level. What we experienced during those 4 years, despite all our setbacks and frustration and everything, was a much needed transformation, I would say.
What do you mean?
I would say that, we all grow up, we all go through changes. And I think what occurred during that time was a cocooning of the self. And I like to liken it to a caterpillar going into the, becoming the chrysalis and essentially, it's a little bit graphic, but dissolving itself entirely and coming out in a new form.
What's the main difference you can say for the listeners here? Like, what's the main difference between Belle Game now and Belle Game then?
I think that a huge difference could be summed up in basically how, like, our conversation with music, how we understand with music now, how we interact with it.
What was it before?
It was more of a logic-based experience,
Like,
and I think
this needs to happen.
Yeah, very like A, B, B, A. Oh, I just spelled ABBA. Oh my God.
Well, you were really influenced by Gimme, Gimme, Gimme a Man After Midnight. I understand.
So we were much into that, and I think it was we were creating as, I think Adam put it really beautifully once. He said that we were creating as fans of music. So we're taking in bands that we like. How can we sound more like them? What's popular? What's resonating with people right now? And having a very conscious process in regards to writing music. Whereas what the process of writing Fear Nothing was a process of kind of dissolving those ideals and kind of allowing for a more physiological flow to occur through our music.
Does this feel like more like truer music to yourselves?
Absolutely.
Do you mind playing the old songs then? Do they feel false now?
Personally, I'll speak for myself. I can say that they do. I think the songwriting process to me and how I wrote songs previously was a lot more, I wouldn't say contrived, but it was a lot more contained. There was a denial of honesty throughout those songs, or if there was honesty, it was so masked in metaphor that you could just cover it. So I think
you were afraid to be.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of artists experience that.
Yeah.
I mean, you would experience that too. Maybe on radio, it's like putting yourself out there and kind of this exposure, this vulnerability. But there's a lot of strength in that as well. So it's kind of growing into that process.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And you spent some time in the Banff Center in Alberta.
Yeah.
I only say that because I mean that it's a scenic place for sure. And if you're listening to this, you think about Banff, Alberta, you picture the mountains, and I'm sure it is. I've never been, but I'm sure
it's pretty good looking.
But
you should go.
I will. One of these days when I don't have to go back to Newfoundland all the time, I'll think about it.
Horrible Newfoundland.
But what about what does that do to a creative process?
Actually, Banff was the huge catalyst for us.
Why?
It was applying to there. So that's actually where we first met Kevin Drew from
Broken Social Scene, who executive produced this record.
Yeah. And, he had narrated all of our teenage lives. I'm sure you have that band you listen to and you can remember the
ABBA.
specific. Me too, man.
Sorry, go ahead.
Going on right now.
Kevin Drew, Broken Social Scene, really narrating your teenage lives.
So, he narrated our lives growing up as music will often do to a listener at times. I think we can all relate. And what occurred there was not only was it the environment of Banff, which was so open, and apparently they're like rivers of rose quartz underneath. So if you subscribe to that, then you're like, oh my God, it's so open. My heart's so open. But Kevin Drew really challenged us without directly giving us instructions or handing us a manual, from getting out of our heads into, the feel of things more, allowing ourselves to emote more freely through music. And I think that's what's so powerful about his music, about Broken Social Scene's music, is it's driven by a very honest feeling.
You've been using these words a lot. You've been using the word open a lot. You've been using the word honest a lot and the word free a lot.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier about when you sing those old songs, you find your truth couched in metaphor, in a way of hiding that truth. But I'm wondering, is there a moment you can think of in your own writing where you wrote something and you said, I don't really know how I feel about putting this out there. This is a little freaky.
Yeah.
But you did it anyway.
Low on the album was definitely a huge one. It's so self-deprecating, and it was, speaking back to ritual, tradition, habit, and how it's all couched in metaphor. It's not only fear of exposure to others, it's fear of exposure to oneself as well, because it can be really hard to be honest with oneself about, the uglier parts of your personality or your, dare I say, truth. So Low was really hard because it was so ugly and, self-deprecating and gross feeling that I didn't want to acknowledge that I had that as a part of me. And it was like, by putting it down on paper, by singing those words out, I was making it known to myself that that exists.
And what does that do to you? Does it give you comfort, or does it still scare you?
I think I'm in a place now where it doesn't scare me as much. Try to live as transparently as possible. It's not always perfect.
No.
But it can be challenging at times. There's still times on the stage where, I'll sing lyrics, whether it's Low or another song, and I'll immediately want to retreat.
Like what? Like what lyric? If you don't mind. Is there any lyric that comes to mind that's hard to sing on stage?
I mean, the entire song is just, can I swear here? Is feeling my breathing is harsher than I've ever known it before. Keep not feeling, remember why I'm here. I don't see the words yet, I know it. Things like that. It's just like, it feels gross. It feels dirty. It's not, we all wear masks. We all have a persona.
Yeah.
And it's very much not the persona.
Yeah.
So that was hard to dissolve and to allow that to be witnessed by not only others, but by myself as well.
Well, I'm starting to understand why the record's called Fear Nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I feel like through that, you could kind of glean that it's also, it's not the reason we put a slash between it.
Fear/nothing.
Yeah. Is that it's not necessarily a direct statement of, call to arms, fear nothing. It's about coexistence. It's about, and we can look at this on a very internal, personal spectrum, or we could look at this at a very expansive, global, universal spectrum. It's about coexisting with all of our really convoluted, contradicting, complexities that we have in us. We can experience mass happiness and experience mass hatred ultimately at the same time. And if you'll notice in the album, it's all over the place in regards to emotion. And I feel that what we really wanted to drive home was the gray area, the grayness, the nothingness, the birthplace of possibility, of opportunity, and of inspiration for pretty much anything, and having that all exist in one system.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having us. We're very grateful to be here.
We're grateful to have you.